Hi, this is Scott Trout, CEO of the domestic litigation firm Cordell & Cordell. There are many life changes that can happen after divorce that make it difficult or impossible to uphold requirements of your divorce decree. The orders issued in a divorce are based on the facts presented at that time, but the circumstances used in issuing those orders can obviously change. If you feel a modification to your court orders might be necessary, talk to us at Cordell & Cordell.
Contact CordellCordell.com, 1065 East Hillsdale Boulevard, Suite 310, Foster City, California, 94404.
Beady boodoo beady boop. We good? You ready?
Yeah.
All right, let's do this.
You're listening to Nearly Informed.
What's up? My name is Brad. Brian Moote is here.
Happy daylight savings time, everybody. Savings. I've taken a lot of enjoyment out of pronouncing the S because I know for you...
It's pretty frustrating.
Yeah. For you weirdos who have like some sort of like grammar police. It's not savings, Brian. It's saving.
Here's the thing about grammar for me, man. I'm I'm one of those people that is like, exactly like that, right? It's saving, Brian.
Saving, Brian.
But here's the thing. I don't say it, and I don't comment... Well, you spelled there wrong, right? I don't do any of that. Mm-hmm. I just kind of bank it. I just go, well, that person.
Idiot.
Well,
I hate, man. Oh, my God. I had a good tweet the other day about, but it was like an aggressive one about Michael Jackson and about leaving Neverland and about, like, my disdain in radio. And I'd say television, but mostly in radio because I felt like radio really punted on the whole Michael Jackson thing. I know we're going to talk about Michael Jackson later. In the show today,
okay,
because you've got an interesting perspective on leaving Neverland and all that stuff. Very, to say the least.
Last week was an emotional firestorm.
Is that a good or bad tease? Brad's got a lot of interesting perspectives on child sexual abuse. Oh God! All right,
how do I navigate this?
Well, not now. We'll do it later. But I really did have a problem with people like going full bore on R. Kelly all week, and yet. I don't know about Michael. It seemed like people were nervous because they weren't sure how program directors were going to react and how record labels and stuff. Mm-hmm. And on television, CNN didn't care. They're like, we'll bring on everyone in here and we'll just rip them all.
Yeah, I think that radio did this weird thing where, think about it for a second. Across the whole country, there are playlists at radio stations whose entire foundation is set upon the Michael Jackson.
Right.
Tracks.
We basically it'd be like going to the Mount Rushmore of radio hits and just nuking one of the faces with a rocket launcher. Even though that face, well, it looked like it had been nuked a couple times anyway, if we're looking at just the way. It has been nuked and rebuilt a few times. But you know what I mean? It's like we literally were wrestling with, these could be lies. He can't defend himself.
Yeah, but I think here's the deal. And I think you and I had talked about this off the air quite a bit, right? But here's the deal. Yes, it's like the Mount Rushmore. If there was a Mount Rushmore of older demo radio
hits,
all four faces would be different versions of Michael Jackson.
Right.
It would be young Michael, it would be a young black Michael, then young white Michael, and then whatever was at the end there. But here's the thing. So as program directors across the country are deciding what songs they want to play and all that stuff or how they should react to this Michael thing, it's like a lot of them are like, what can I do? What can I do? Well, you can just pull the music.
Hey, just stop playing it.
Just stop for a second. And if it's proven that everything's okay, then play it again. Like, it doesn't kill you.
And they're not going to prove that none of this stuff happened. They're just not going to. Right. It's just going to have to be maybe we wait it out. People aren't upset about it. Maybe I'd pull it regardless. I just loved the arguments, though. Well, he's dead. He can't defend himself. Like, well, is that the line that we're going to arbitrarily draw now where, like, okay, once you're dead, we don't look into your indiscretions and crimes anymore. We kind of let you rest in peace. That whole that concept of rest in peace drives me crazy.
Well, I think you actually said earlier this week, you're like, it's not worth even one person in their car having a breakdown over this song.
Come on. It's like when I'm doing a joke on stage and it's like, hey, yeah, that joke could be a trigger issue for somebody. Sure, I've never written anything pro like rape or pro sexual assault, but if it's a self-deprecating joke that has that, has those words or that premise or something, I'm not sure what the context would be. but I just take it out of my acts because it's like not worth it. Even if it crushes, it's not worth it if one person's like, set back in their development.
And what are you going to do? Play a disclaimer before every Michael Jackson song? Like, I get disclaimers before, like, personality situations. But before every Michael Jackson song, like, warning, you might be triggered by this. Don't stop till you get enough.
Beat it.
Yeah.
Beat it for come back.
Smooth Criminal? What was it about?
So the grammar police thing that I had last week, and I don't know how I can, like, wreak vengeance on this Twitter police or grammar police Twitter. That is it's a bot. Clearly, it's a bot.
Okay,
and
that's you know what? I'm going to give props to whoever designed said bot.
No, you're an a-hole.
The master troll automates his trolling.
Unbelievable trollness. Just the biggest a-hole thing I've ever. I just want to meet that person who just stomps on little kids' sandcastles because they're not, like geometrically sound. That wall will never stand up. Smash. Like. What a POS. Like, so I have this really long, it's like, and this was a long tweet. It was one of those now on the Twitter app where, like, you can do a function where you can have, like, you can tweet a string of tweets.
Right. It's basically like you're commenting on your own tweet, but it's all set down at the top.
It's like, yo, here's a thread. Back in the old days, you used to have to just try to reply to our own tweet before someone else did, just so someone didn't get in the middle of that thread. But now you can just unload them all at once.
Right.
And I was on an airplane, and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to let these radio people have it. Like, I'm done with this R. Kelly thing.
Get after them.
Every once in a while, I feel kind of righteous about that, indignant. About,
no, me too.
Something on Twitter, especially.
Usually when I do it, though, I send a tweet and then delete it.
I do a lot of tweet deleting. Well, I deleted this one because the first, and then I got a mention. I was like, ooh, looks like I got, and they're like, it was there. It was like I used the wrong there. I used THERE instead of THEIR, and I'm like, yo, you I have big fat thumbs, and this is a flat screen phone. You POS, and the tweet wasn't regarding any of the content. It just was like clearly what Moot Points meant to use was their like possessive.
Oh, they even had like the bot like explain it clearly what at whoever they're responding to
in the context
meant was
this there instead of that there.
Gosh.
But it didn't like it did. I would have been okay with it if the bot would have been like, and also. I also disagree with this point of view on Michael Jackson leaving Neverland.
That's a good note for the bot maker. He should also just put at the end of all of those pre-built tweets, put the end of it and just say, also, I disagree. Just no matter what the content is.
I don't know how I can somehow destroy this human being. I don't know how I can do it. I need to, though, because the grammar police, called Grammar Cops, is 100% a bot. All right, it'll just retweet, and it retweets on its own account, quoting your tweet and correcting the grammar on it.
That's impressive.
And it's enraging that it does that because there's no way, like it has like a trigger set for theirs and there, and then it can.
Oh yeah,
and
peak. You know how many times I got a sneak peek, but I spell it like the mountain peak, and people rip me apart for that. He's got a whole list of stuff that you can just
stairs. Sometimes I have to like weekend. Yeah. I'm like, oh man, which one is like? I'll spell weekend. I'll be, that looks like it's wrong, and then is it wrong?
Is there an A in weekend?
Oh my god! I just like who is that person who's just like I hate typos on Twitter so much. I'm gonna devote time in my life to programming a bot on Twitter just to come in there and wreck whatever point you had.
Also, once we do find out who this person is, we need to ask them if they could build us a Twitter bot for our own purposes.
I want to troll everybody on that, but that's why I do it, man. I say the savings on purpose. I say it on purpose because I want you to be annoyed, you people who need more hobbies.
That's okay. I heard caveat the other day instead of caveat, and I just walked away.
Caveat sounds more fancy.
I know. With one caveat, and I was like, and we're done. We're not going to, there's no way we're getting in business together.
I've got a ton of I've heard a ton of those words. My buddy has a joke and a story about hearing someone say ricochet instead of ricochet. It's Andrew Slater, comedian. That's funny. Or there's some, man, I just heard one the other day, too, that was just so wildly pronounced, just straight, as with no silent letters. I mean, I don't know. Caveat is pretty strong.
Yeah.
Well, with one caveat.
And I was we were discussing doing like business together, and I was like, I'm out. I told the other people in the group, I was like, I can't do this.
I've got a caveat, and that's if you can't say caveat and you say it confidently, I'm out.
This is Nearly Informed with Brad and Brian.
But I'm going to take pleasure all day and knowing that the daylight saving zealots are mad that when I say savings.
The show's called Nearly Informed. That's Brian. He's still
Still ranting.
he's
about
still ranting about grammar police with one caveat. He doesn't care.
I gotta find out who is that. Is a troll level that's like the
amazing.
Trump respectable.
Yeah.
That's how good a trolling that is. And I also didn't realize that I forgot about daylight saving time because I've been in Atlanta all weekend, setting up surveillance cameras. And it's funny because I want to make fun of people with too much time on their hands because we're gonna talk about a guy in high school I went to high school with who is the leader of the Flat Earth Army. That's fantastic. And
I just love that you have such a not even like a distant connection to this person.
No.
The place you grew up, not big.
It's tiny.
It's tiny, and it's like you knew this guy. You walked the same streets as this guy, and I can't wait to get to that story.
But I did realize that this morning I just felt like trash, and it is the spring forward gets me every year, and I just traveled from.
I was
the
gonna say
East
you were
Coast,
traveling too, so it's a whole different ballgame.
Jet lagged, and I remember waking up on Sunday. And I went downstairs and was like, oh, it's only 9:30. That's not bad. I was going to make breakfast, and I was like, my phone says 10. No, come on. Come on. This weekend?
That's what always gets me is because I don't have your microwave change its clocks on its own money.
I had to.
Right?
No, I don't.
Like, who does?
I had to figure that ish out, dude. I had to like go through there, and I had to like push buttons, and then I couldn't figure out how to change it. So I had 11 typed into it, 11:03, and it was like AM or PM. And I'm like, well, come on, man. There's not even an AM or PM option button.
There's not
here.
a button.
So I just start pressing all these buttons, and my girlfriend's like, what are you doing? And I'm like, I'm just never going to figure this out.
I literally stood, like, it's Sunday afternoon. I'm just standing there staring. The stove and the microwave both need to be changed. I'm just kind of staring back and forth, like, looking. My wife comes up. Not a word said. Changes the times, just right in front of me. And I was like, okay. I just walked. It was disrespectful.
You could act like it's a little bit difficult.
Yeah.
I do kind of like the idea, though, because I remember this used to be my parents' house. My parents don't know how to change anything, and they never did growing up either. Like, old school microwaves had like 5 buttons anyway.
half the year, it's right.
Like, I think we had a microwave at one point in time. You just hit the cook button, and it just started cooking.
Yeah.
And then you have to hit stop. And it had a clock on it. I think that we got to a point now where my mom, or at that point in time, where my mom would have the stove for the fall and the microwave for the spring,
not a bad
and you
idea.
just had to know which one is correct, which one is the one you're supposed to look at.
Yeah, I mean, my phone threw me off too because all day I kept using it as a justification with my wife. Yeah, but it feels but it only feels like 8:30. We've got plenty of time today.
It's so light out, right? It's so weird. It's funny because I spent, like I said, I was gonna talk about people who waste their time. And I put in security cameras at my townhouse. I bought some Blink motion-activated cameras. Then I immediately had to then turn around and buy a more expensive one for the dogs in the house.
Yeah, what's the story behind that? So you bought 3, right?
What happened was I bought 3 cameras. It was like a 3-camera package, and they're really easy to set up. It's cool, and I want to monitor.
This is not an ad, but we can work on that.
No, yeah, hey, give me an endorsement here. No, I mean, they're dope. I am not very good with technology, and I can't. My Wi-Fi password at my house is the same router I've had for 3.5 years. It's my ex-wife's phone number. I don't know how to change anything. And like that's it. Every time my girlfriend would be like, "Hey, what's your ex's phone number?" I'm like, "What's going on?"
It's just like, no, I just need
I
the
need the Wi-Fi.
password.
I'm like, "Oh, thank God!" I thought you guys were fighting for some crazy reason. So I bought these cameras, and immediately I realized what my girlfriend wants cameras for, and what I want cameras for are completely different. Like I want to monitor the front and back of my house. I want to see who's perusing my neighborhood. And already, my camera's been up for 24 hours. I already have seen some questionable behavior from people in the neighborhood.
Talk to me a little bit about how your cameras are set up. So I've seen glimpses of the front door cam.
Yeah, I got one up in the front door, like shoots straight down at whoever walks up to my front door and gets the entire shot of all the stairs.
Right, to catch any
down.
Amazon package bandits.
Yeah, package bandits and just people just, sniffing around my stuff. I've had a
washing her car.
Yeah, that's fun. Well, that's the thing. That's all I've been doing is watching my girlfriend like a reality show. Like it's my own Truman Show now, where I'll be like, "Ooh, I got a notification.
So great.
Ooh, she just took. Oh, she's washing the rims of her car. Oh, she took the trash out."
I should have that for my daughter.
I have one just kind of a straight shot from the second floor of the entire driveway and the street. Of our driveway and the street. And then in the back, I have one that's up underneath the deck. So the second floor is a deck, and it's kind of shooting all of the back patio, the back door, and kind of shoots up towards the green belt a little bit, like through the neighbors. I have a couple pesky neighbors, so they're a little nosy, and I'd like to know if they're being nosy around my back patio. So
Right.
it's aimed towards the nosy people. So if you're listening to this and you think you might be one of the nosy folks in my neighborhood, well, which way is the camera pointing? Figure it out. But immediately she's like, oh, one of the cameras has to go in the house because I want to watch the dogs while I'm at work. Like, she just wants to see what they're up to.
Yeah.
Which is kind of funny. We put one in there during the weekend and we kind of watched the dog. We were at a bar. I'm like, oh, look what Leo's doing now. But I'm like, I need all three of those cameras. I need those. Those are like indoor, outdoor cameras. So instead, I found this Amazon camera. It's called PetZ. And it's kind of lame, but also I'm just going to lean into it now.
You have to. Yeah.
I'm just going to own it. It's like $80, more than I want to pay for a stupid pet camera. But it's a camera that kind of like shoots the whole room. It's like a wide lens camera.
Like 180 degrees, maybe 160.
Probably somewhere around there. I haven't. She has to set it up, so which means I'll have to set it up this weekend,
right?
Because she's not setting anything up. So, but then it also allows you with an app to speak to the dogs on like a loudspeaker, so you can talk to them. And the kicker, this is why I'm really excited about it, is you can feed them snacks, like with a button, and snacks like fling out. Like, I don't know how they do it, but they just kind of.
I'm hoping it's full-on projectile.
Like just spray, like a machine gun spray of dog treats. Yeah, I gotta be honest. Like, at first, the whole camera thing was like, oh, this will be cute for Jessica. She can watch the dogs and see what they're up to during the day. Now it's just I want to be sitting in the studio just flinging treats, even when she's in the house.
Yeah.
Like, hey, Jess. She's like, knock it off.
Bing.
Just
treat.
Fling out a treat. Yeah, that's I'm excited for that.
Yeah.
So basically, I've just been like refreshing these cameras. But I will say, man, it's kind of interesting to see what people do in your neighborhood when you're not home. Like, and also, to be fair, I'm never just watching the street. If I'm in the house, I'm like watching TV, or I'm in the kitchen, or what.
See, you're different than me. I feel like if I had the setup that you have in Atlanta, with like, you have a kind of a cool little front porch type vibe going on right there.
Yeah, we got these French doors that open out onto the street.
Yeah,
and we got
like
a back deck.
I literally would post up there drinking coffee and just staring at everybody.
Stare people down. Just wanted you guys to know I'm keeping an eye on stuff.
Yeah.
Leo does that. Leo will lay like in the French door when I have him open and just look out over the street and just lay there.
Stare.
And Moxie will too, but she almost falls like through the railings because she's blind. It's like,
Right. She's also not really keeping
back
an
your
eye
ass
on
away. No. But I want to see what those two do when no one's around, because I have a surveillance video of Leo, our golden doodle, and I need to post it. I keep forgetting to do it, but he's rolling around on our friend's couch in the middle of the day. Then he just eats it, falls right on his face, and pops his head up real quick like, does anyone see that?
I've seen this video. It is so good.
It just is 100% what happens when you trip in public and look around to see if anyone caught it.
It's the reason you should have security cameras at home.
It
like
is
full bore.
I
It's
agree with everyone who just wants to know what their animals are up to during the day.
All right, what are we talking about next?
Next, let's talk about the Flat Earthers, and then we'll close it out with Michael Jackson, or vice versa. Depends on if it's going to be a bummer.
Find Nearly Informed on Instagram and Twitter at Nearly Informed.
You can find us there. That's true. You can also find actual content at Brad Nolan across all social. And what are yours, Brian?
At Moote Points on Twitter and Moote Comedy on everything else. I think that it's funny, but nowadays you just pick like the names of things based on the Instagram handles.
Yeah.
Being open, being available. Nobody wants any. Listen, I don't want any damn underscores.
I mean, I recently we have a mutual friend, coworker that recently did this with their child. I recently named a company based solely on the ability to get the Instagram handles and stuff.
I mean, that is important. I'm telling you, man. When you come across somebody's Instagram and they have underscores at the end of it, you're like, oh, what? And then when I come across some where I'm like, damn, how'd you get that?
Brad underscore Nolan hits me up a lot.
What, to try to sell you their...
No, he's just like, hey, man, what's going on? Like, it's just like
so weird.
Like, hey, man, we're both Brad Nolan.
I've had a couple Brian Moots do that. Like, hit me up. Like, what's up, Brian Moot? It's Brian Moot. And I'm like, you're an idiot. You're really weird.
My guy seems kind of cool. He lives in Chicago. He's a big Chicago sports fan.
Yeah.
He seems to be the exact opposite of me, which is interesting.
There's a Brian Moot in Salt Lake City, and this happened on the radio show I worked on in Atlanta, where I was getting emails for years from this Janice Moot. From Janice Moot, who was sending me emails. And every once in a while, I'd reply back. And she was looking for brian.moot@gmail.com. And she was emailing brianmoot@gmail.com. And so every once in a while I'd reply back. And then, of course, the radio show was like, oh, this is hilarious. You should start replying back to her. So we're talking about the story. And I'm like, and I feel kind of bad because this old lady is a super sweetheart, Janice. And she's like, I was like, hey, we wish we could come down and see you, but Grandpa's not feeling so good. Now I'm like, oh my God, this other guy, Brian, his grandma might die, and she's reaching out. I'm not doing anything. Yeah. So I tried to friend request him once. Then he did not accept me, so I rescinded that friend request offer on Facebook. I will not be put in purgatory. I feel like I'm better than that. And eventually, what happened was this other Brian Moote, his wife is from Four Corners, Georgia. Or Peachtree Corners, Georgia. And her friend heard us talking about it and was like, there's no way that's not my friend's Brian Moote. There's no way. And then he called up on the radio show. It was the most awkward call ever. And now we're kind of, I don't want to say pals, but every once in a while he'll shoot me an email. He came to one of my comedy shows. It's odd.
That's funny. That's funny.
Speaking of odd things in my past, I guess this just kind of naturally segued into leaving Neverland. No.
That's an odd thing in my past.
I found this out. This is unbelievable to me. I was just bored and looking through documentaries on Netflix, and I wasn't logged into my own Netflix account. I believe I was logged into my roommate's, and it said Behind the Curve, and the description was it was about the flat earth movement, and it's about these conventions of flat earthers and people who believe that the earth is flat. They believe that we're basically living in a big-ass diorama like you'd make in science class in 7th grade, and like the Truman Show. And so I'm like, well, I'm going to watch this. That's for damn sure.
Yeah, why wouldn't you?
Like, come on, that seems ridiculous to me. Like, we use the earth being round as the basis of comparison for you're an idiot.
Right.
Like, oh, yeah, you're going to tell me the earth is flat. Okay, dummy. You know, like, we've all just accepted that the earth is round. And every part of the world with science. There's probably some cultures that just don't care because they ain't in their wheelhouse.
Yeah, they don't think it's round or flat. They don't give a crap.
Don't care. Yeah. They're never leaving the island that they're on. They're whatever. And so I start watching it, and it literally kicks off on Whidbey Island. I'm like, whoa, wow.
Where you grew up.
And Whidbey Island, Washington. I have no idea this is going to be the case. I'm like, this is weird. Whidbey Island?
Of all the places.
I grew up there. I never heard of the flat earth movement being here. Also, we should all be well aware that the earth is not flat because, I don't know, we have to live our life by tide schedules, you dummies. And that's coming specifically coming from the curvature of the earth and water being pulled in and out of the Puget Sound. Right? So
did they cover that in the documentary?
Nah, they conveniently skip over a lot of they didn't cover the tides.
Over the obvious things.
Yeah, tides would have really. Well, the thing is that in this movie, this documentary, they literally prove themselves wrong like 5 times. And they don't even realize they're doing it because they're not scientists. They're not scientists. They're just conspiracy theorists. Like the movie literally ends with these guys. They're on a 3-mile. Spoiler alert, by the way. I don't want you to find out that. They're literally on this 3-mile canal in Northern California. And it's the flattest canal. There's no current in it. They want it to be the slowest flowing canal ever, so it's basically leveled the entire time. And they're like, well, if we shoot this light 3 miles and it goes up, that means the Earth is curving. If it goes down or if it stays the same, it means the Earth is flat. There's no curvature. And the last line, it goes, oh, I can't see the light at 17 feet. And the guy's like, okay, I'll lift it up to 23. Oh, there it is. Huh. And then it's like roll credits. You morons just proved. Huh. Okay.
But they don't. And so you're wearing a Flat Earth Army shirt right now.
Yeah, I'm supporting hey man, it's a hometown kid.
Because the guy who runs the whole thing,
Mark Sargent.
Mark Sargent.
Now he's older than me. I don't know how much older than me he is, but he went to South Whidbey High School, the same high school I graduated from. I'm more familiar with Patty Sargent, which is his mom. She's in the movie as well, not being skeptical enough of the endeavors of her wacky son.
Given that she's a teacher, right?
Right. She's a history and science, and she was a teacher at the high school that I'm pretty sure I had a couple times for various classes. And it's like, yo, how did you produce this kook? Like this guy who thinks the earth is flat. And it just makes the model that he has on this picture, if you Google Mark Sargent, it's just he's holding like a disc that has and they said there's a tower of ice in the North Pole, and it's basically got a rack that spins with a sun and a moon. And then people ask at these conventions, like, well, Mark, how high is the top of the dome have to be? And he's like, I'm glad you asked that. From our calculations, what calculations? You're doing calculations. So what about air travel? You don't think air travel there at 35,000 feet? Well, it's going to have to be higher than 35,000 feet. Dude, we're not flying around in a giant jar. Like, it's just so stupid. And to know that happened at my high school. I mean, granted, he's not in high school anymore, but it's just so funny to me that this exists. And I went from not knowing that anyone thought the world was flat. I didn't know that even existed. I went from that to watching a Netflix documentary, then finding out, oh, look at that. The president, the Lord of the Flat Earthers, lives on Whidbey Island with his mom right now.
Lord of the Flat Earthers.
Does sound like something from Game of Thrones. So what is it? Lord of the Rings.
Yeah. Did you buy the hoodie?
Oh yeah, I bought.
You
hoodie.
did.
Yeah, I mean,
because I was wondering what the conversation would have been like between you and old Marky Pants.
I can't get a hold of him. I think.
Hey, Mark, listen, I'd like your shirt so I can berate you on the radio. And have fun
I'm gonna
with it.
wear it around and see. It's kind of a trigger sweatshirt for people who've seen the doc. Like, oh my God, you're wearing I didn't know I'd see you guys. Then I immediately have to be like, oh, I'm
wearing it ironically.
Yeah, I'm doing this as a joke.
Funny.
I almost hit him up on social media to be like, yo, dude, can you hit me with one of your Flat Earth sweatshirts? Then I thought, I don't really know how much money the Flat Earth Army's making right now in terms of revenue.
This might be a on-demand style purchase.
Also, I think, based on his lack of presence on social media, I'm pretty sure that he's not a big fan of the backlash he's getting in terms of the mockery because he's not really on anything.
Wow.
Right. So I think
But has a documentary. He's doing better than we are. I'd rather not be on social media and have a documentary.
Here's the ridiculous part. My brother made a documentary about trying to get his penis enlarged. And that's not even as ridiculous as this one. Like, I never thought there'd be a day where my brother would have somebody beat him in a ridiculous documentary, let alone someone from our hometown.
This brings up a great thought, though. Is Mark Sargent part of a mockumentary?
I mean, if he is, that is a level of acting in which... Because they go to conventions. Like, if he's part of a mockumentary, Mark Sargent's the greatest actor in history because... he has been going to the Flat Earth International Conference for the last 2 years, and it's like thousands of people roll into Raleigh, North Carolina, and they all discuss their theories.
Of course it's in Raleigh.
On Flat Earth, on how it's possible that there's this international conspiracy. That's why it has to be international. Can't have the national because the Flat Earth conspiracy. It's worldwide, Brad.
It's the Earth.
They all have to be in cahoots on this entire project.
Okay, so up next,
Leaving Neverland.
Yeah.
This is Nearly Informed with Brad and Brian.
This is a bummer of a topic last week on the radio show.
Yeah.
Mainly because it hits home for you.
Yeah, so if you notice, I haven't been on this show.
Brad had a break last week. He wasn't flying airplanes all that often.
When you say break, you don't mean I was sipping coffee. You mean I pretty much had a break. Like
Step away.
Psychological one.
Step away.
Yeah, why don't you just talk about the documentary and then I'll chime in.
I'll set it up. So the documentary Leaving Neverland, it's Wade Robson and James Safechuck, and they're coming out now 30 years later to talk about the sexual abuse they experienced at
Trigger warning.
Neverland Ranch. And these allegations have been around for a long time. Michael Jackson had been acquitted of charges once for sexual assault in a trial that Robson testified in his early 20s, and they both testified when they were young on a separate case, which eventually got thrown out and settled out of court. Which those details, that thing frustrates me. Like, I don't think that the DA should be able to arbitrarily say, oh, the one kid who's claiming sexual abuse, he doesn't want us to testify anymore. We don't have, literally, we do not have a case, so we're going to have to dismiss this. Oh, but you guys are settling out of court? Huh.
Yeah.
Huh. Like, that, to me, that's that flat earth. Huh. Like, wait a minute. Huh. Wait, crimes were still committed. You can't just pay it's not how it works. You don't just get to pay $20 million and get things to go away when you're a criminal. Now, clearly, you get to. So last week we were discussing a lot of people don't want to believe Michael Jackson did these things. And I think the discussion that we've been having, and I know it's hard for you, Brad, is because a lot of people are like, these guys are lying. Why wouldn't they say something earlier? Why would they wait this long to come out? Why this? Why that? they're just trying to slander his name for money. And it's like, well, one, if you actually watch the documentary and you listen to their stories, the behavior patterns of Michael Jackson are that of a textbook predator.
Yeah. I mean, so before I sat down to watch the documentary, I was a big fan of separating the art from the person, meaning
Right.
I respect the idea that the person who makes art isn't always the same person.
They can be a character.
Yeah, like I've been in times in my life where I kind of my brain moves into a completely separate space when I'm creating something. And that person that is creating that thing is kind of different than the guy who wakes up in the morning and puts his shoes on.
Right. It's
Right. So it's truly like a mental, I don't want to say it's like a split personality thing, but it is kind of like there's a huge mental shift.
Well,
So,
that artist can express pain and express other things in different manifestations, different forms. It's like when an actor plays some god-awful character in a movie, they're acting. But
Right.
as an artist, some of that motivation can come from a place that's super dark. Like you look at Heath Ledger, like some of that motivation for the character of the Joker came from really, really dark, depressed places that he was using and channeling to really sell this character. And unfortunately, the character kind of consumed him.
yeah, and so before watching the Leaving Neverland documentary, I was all about, you can separate the art from the artist. Okay. And my wife and I sat down to watch the documentary, and then I started, I heard Safe Chuck and Robson start explaining kind of, I didn't watch part 2, by the way. I heard them explaining the process of how Michael Jackson went from innocuous to just fully engulfed in
you went from like silly guy who's immature to straight up predator.
Yeah, and just some of the descriptions that were used in the documentary, the kind of stuff he would say, the stuff he was doing.
Like some of the stuff he would say was, if we ever get caught doing this, my life's over, your life's over. And to a child, those threats are very real.
Yeah. And then also, like, the kids didn't know it was wrong because they were just in the moment of feeling, enjoyed.
You trust the person too, and if you're using it in terms of this is how how people show each other love, you're like, whoa, this feels kind of cool and different and interesting, and this is how we show love, and I'm not supposed to tell anybody because they won't understand this expression of love. Kids are super gullible, man. Like it's just part of the process. We trust adults. I remember when it comes to like sex stuff, when I was like 12 years old, someone told me masturbation was gross. Guess what I didn't do for the next 6 years? Because I just thought it was gross. Yeah. Because I remember hearing that and like, okay, well, that's a fact now. Established fact. Yeah. I'm 12. I'll never need to reevaluate this.
What got me was, what was his name? What Safechuck? Brian Safechuck?
James
Safechuck. James Safechuck started talking about the little things like setting up in places so they could see anyone who was coming, or some of the different sexual acts they were doing, and the process of getting there and seeing the pain in his eyes and knowing that his life from that moment forward was completely screwed up. And they're both married, but I think both of their marriages are a little bit.
They've had problems back and forth. But, and a lot of the wives, or the wives in both, were like, it made a lot of the things that we would have problems with started to make sense.
Right.
And I found it really interesting when neither wanted to ever talk about it. He had told his mom, Safechuck had told his mom, that Michael Jackson's a bad human being when Michael Jackson asked him to testify in the trial when he was 22. He said, I don't want nothing to do with that. He is an evil, awful person. And his mom kind of knew something was up, something happened, but then didn't want to push for questions.
Considering the trial.
As which you shouldn't do. Right. Because like a lot of people don't understand, it's not like his life was changed at the moment Michael Jackson victimized him, and he knows he's being victimized psychologically and just the way they were treated and the physical acts they did. Right. But then also it's screwed again when you come out and tell about it, right? It's screwed in a different way. Now, and this is why I think people need to like understand that the decision for Robson and Safechuck to come forward and tell their stories, that's a life-changing moment for them.
And I'm really happy they did it because it gives other people who have gone through similar situations a chance to just kind of reflect, which is what happened to me during the documentary when I was watching it. So when I was about the same age as them, 7, 8, 9 years old, to a T almost, the same exact things happened. I mean, it wasn't at Neverland.
Right,
so
right.
I really got the wrong end of the deal.
You definitely didn't get to fly on any commercial or any
I
private
didn't get any
jets.
cool jets or any toys. There was no candy store. But the same thing had happened to me. And up until right this moment, only like 4 people know this about me. One of them is my mom. My wife, I had to tell you, Brian, because it was affecting my work last week.
Oh, yeah, man. You were in tears, like, behind the scenes.
Yeah, I couldn't.
And I'm trying to have a conversation as real as I can have one on Top 40 Radio.
Right.
Because I really don't care. I don't have any compassion for people who abuse children.
Right.
And I don't care if you really like Thriller. I don't give a damn. So, but you see, you having to be in tears and having to be like, yo, I need to step outside I mean, I can only imagine. Because you're hearing from these guys in a way where, I got to be honest, sexual abuse, I've studied it. I've worked with at-risk youth who've been victimized. I've known it exists until I heard the detail from Safe Chuck about the process, about the manipulation, the separating of the children, the making you think that what you're doing is completely normal, but then also not filling in the details because you're a kid and you don't know. And then also with the presence of mind as an adult to know, oh, I need to tell you that you can't tell anybody about this. We need to keep it safe. We need to practice drills so you put your clothes back on. Until I heard, and then some of the positions, I mean, we don't need to get into it here, but some of the graphic positions and the process, my jaw was on the floor, and I was like, yo, it is so much realer for me right now. And I think if anything came out of that documentary, it's for people who have been there like you and man, that's uncomfortable to hear. I can't imagine what it's like to experience.
Well, and like I said, so 4 people knew: my mom, my wife, you, and one other coworker. Just because it was affecting me so much that I was like not really good at what I was doing, and we had to cover it for like 2 days.
Yeah, it was hard, man.
And so, but yeah, watching it, there wasn't a single tear. I was just paralyzed watching it.
In that moment too, are you? Because listen, you've been hiding that your whole life, right?
My whole life.
And that doesn't just stop. No. Okay, like the hiding doesn't just stop. So I imagine there's got to be a moment there, or like a piece of you that is like deer in the headlights. Oh my God. Yeah. Also, you probably weren't prepared to hear exactly what happened to you.
Yeah, I didn't know what we were getting into there, and I was paralyzed. It was a deer in the headlights situation, and I just kind of stuffed it, even in that moment. And then the following day, we got here to the station, and we were talking about it, and I thought I could hold it together. I thought I could just run the board for the break, and everything would be fine. And I lost it. And the funnier thing is that, the funnier thing is I was actually disappointed that I couldn't hold it together.
Yeah.
Instead of feeling what was actually what I should have been feeling, right? And
but I mean that makes sense because that's what you've been doing for 25 years,
right? So that, and then I have an I don't have a father, which I'm sure didn't help. And then my marriage isn't great, so I'm going through a lot of marriage problems right now. And I think the documentary was super important because it lets people like me just talk about it openly, and cry like a bitch.
No, but that's the important part, man. Like that's the thing where it is something where you don't know just how bad these situations victimize you and affect you. You'll never know.
Yeah.
The only way you can start to find out is by unpacking it, is by pulling those awful memories out and by saying like, oh my God, and exploring like, was the fact that I've been hiding this and this has been a weight on my shoulders. It's been something that's like this thing for me to this hurdle or this wall I have to navigate. Does that affect my marriage? Does that affect this? Does that affect some of the ways that I have an outlook on things or my ability to fully trust people or to think that, to not be distracted by, because that's a crazy thing to hear that your first instinct is like, stop being a little bitch.
Yeah. I mean, I was disappointed that I couldn't hold it together in the studio. And thank you for not mentioning it to anybody else on the team or whatever. They're just like, Brad's upset about something.
I mean, I think here's the funny part. I think that not funny. It's a short the thing about it is when somebody has an emotional reaction to something that's very serious, I think there's two types of people. One, people who know something like, whoa, I don't know. Yeah. Like, boy, something happened there, man. I don't know what that is. But also, I'm just going to sit over here and I'm going to twiddle my mouse on my computer.
Right.
And then, like, I knew exactly. I mean, I would have known regardless. It's a very heavy topic. But that's why when you have these conversations, you say, hey, if you're not on board for it yet, that's totally fine. There are people, Wade Robson and James Safechuck were not on board with having this conversation for 25 years. Yeah. And then to do it publicly. And I think, like, the thing that I'm seeing from you, like, being emotional, is that you're seeing that, damn, man, those are hard conversations to have. The descriptions are hard. But you need, like, I feel like we all need to know just how graphic sexual abuse is. You know, don't spare me the details. Like, I need to be an advocate, or I want to be an advocate for people who have been sexually abused, but don't spare me the details.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't watch part 2 of that, but I wish I could. I just don't think I can. I wish I could, because it is important for everybody to just kind of, understand how serious this is and how much it completely can ruin a life.
Part 2 dives, and I think I would encourage you to watch part 2, because I think part 1 for you was a week-long emotional experience, and one that will cracked open some emotions and some memories and things that are going to last far longer than just a week. They're going to last for a long time. And they're things you're going to have to, like, resolve. But on the flip side, you're every day resolving these, you're taking a step in the right direction of bettering yourself. Now, I'd say for part 2, you really start to see behind the scenes of Robson and Safechuck into how emotionally damaging these relationships were, because of the fact that you still loved that person, or you still trusted, or that person had got you a point where you weren't afraid of that person. You still, and that's why a lot of times people say, well, they said he was innocent. Well, because they didn't want to hurt someone that they loved.
Well, you mean this person that did it to me is still, I mean, it's a family member, and is still an active member of my family. And, everybody just kind of.
Have you ever thought about having the conversation with him?
I mean, maybe I will. And now maybe I will, or at some point. Well, but it's weird at family reunions. Everyone, it's all fine. And you know what? I love the guy. Again, that's the weirder thing, right? It's that I love the guy, and I should. He's my family and all that stuff. But it's just a super.
Well, does it change though now that you have a 4-year-old? Because I know that with Robson and Safechuck, like, the reason that Robson melted down and told his mom and told his wife was that he had a son or a child. I mean, it was a son, but it could be any child, because abuse is abuse. And he remembered looking at his son and being like, having these memories of, like, how the hell could anyone do this to this child?
Yeah. It does. I mean, I think that's probably the root of why I let it get to me at all. Mm-hmm. And lately I've been doing a lot of that. Hey, my biggest fear in life is being bad dad.
Right.
Because I didn't have one.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so. Yeah, it's tough. Well, especially having a girl, actually. I think that having a girl is worse, almost. You do? Yeah, just because, I don't think we're looking for some equality for women and stuff like that, but I just think that there's such a disadvantage to being a girl in the world.
Right.
That there's a lot of work to do in that space, and so it's extra difficult for me because, and she enjoys entertaining people, and she wants to do, like, videos on YouTube, and she wants to do all these cool, like, fun, creative things. Like, she's going to be a rock star, you know what I mean? Maybe even literally.
Right.
And that scares the crap out of me, because this entertainment space is where this kind of crap happens.
Do you think, because you've been somebody, and I've met people like this before, but it doesn't last as long as it has for you and Nikki, who they don't want their child to be on social media. Right. Now, we all know the people who the first picture taken of their baby ends up on Instagram. Yeah. Right? Like, oh, here's.
We have them all. We'll hand them over to her for Throwback Thursday.
Just do like a data dump.
Yeah.
Here's 50 other pictures of Declan
with celebrities.
Do you think, though, that some of your apprehension of putting her on social and of putting her into that sphere of life is because do you think there's some of that's rooted in like, you know what, I don't really trust all these people.
Yeah, no, it's 100%.
Like I'm not going to put her out there. Like you've experienced, and whether maybe it was subconscious for a long time and maybe now it's more of a conscious thing, but you had to put up a wall and have the realization that, oh, grown-ups aren't always nice.
Yeah.
They're not always good.
Yeah, and you know what? It's the weirdest thing is that putting up that wall and hiding that thing forever is probably part of the reason I got to where I am in my career.
Mm-hmm.
Because I just didn't look. I didn't look for anybody to help me because I just assumed that nobody's actually out to help me. Right? They're all out to take something from you. And
that's probably a feeling you get from when you're trying to process
exactly
at your first, one of your first experiences with people that you trust was someone taking something from you.
Yeah, and so there's a point in my career recently where I was like, man, you killed it, right? I've been June 4th. I will have been in this career for 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
And then I look at it and I go, yeah, but I don't have anything to show for it. I have some really dope like signed pictures.
See, I don't have any of that.
Yeah, like I have some dope stuff.
Pictures.
I don't own a house. I don't own a car. I have my family, but that's tangential to the career.
Mm-hmm.
And so like the other part of this for me at the timing of this Finding Neverland thing is it's all coming to a head with realizations about the rest of my life.
Right.
And realizing that I don't think now at 31 that I've lived a life that is actually valuable.
Well, I mean, I think you're going to have to process and find connection points on
that's
things
what I'm
that
saying.
So
I think
like,
that's the great thing about this documentary is it's like now it's like, dude, go live for the human moment, right?
Yeah, right.
Like get the thing you walk out of this earth with needs to be that you enjoyed the humans.
Mm-hmm.
Forget the house and the car, but I think that like this is all coming to a moment for me. The timing of this documentary is a little bit crazy for me emotionally and just mental health wise. But yeah, I'm glad it's out. I don't know if I'll watch part 2.
I mean, I think like watching part 2 for you is just like a lot of the things that you still need to work through, which is on your own time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, to be honest, the emotional response, I think, for you with leaving Neverland is you weren't prepared to address just the specificity of the abuse for these guys, right? So, like, let's just say that it had been, because the R. Kelly documentary, if you watch that, you probably don't experience it the same way.
Right.
But there are people who do, and they're like, oh my God, that same stuff happened to me, but not with, not in that context, but the promises, the manipulation, the this, the that, all these things, the like different things that you connect with, you find those specific connection points. So, and like all of these abuse survivor situations, there is no timeline on how to feel. Yeah. It's just the important part is to get it out there. Now, I would say probably down the road, an important thing that you're going to have to do is figure out how you're going to address interacting with this family member post you being okay and processing like all the things that happen. And I would say don't do it until you're like completely 100% or as much as you can be. Mm-hmm. Like, I've processed this, I can move forward, but I just, for me, and I always say this about any time you're going to confront anyone about anything, you can't have expectations for them, right? Only yourself. Like, you can only say, you know what, this is what I want out of this with you. And I don't give a rat's ass if you get anything out of this or if you change for the better. Ideally, sure, let's have that conversation. But I'm going into this knowing that I know what I need out of it, and what I need out of it is just to tell you that it messed me up, and say
I think
that
it's
I've
the
had
same
to
conversation I have to have with my father if I can find him. I'm serious, like you know what I mean, like. Yeah, it's whatever.
Get that airplane license, Brad. Yeah. We got to make sure all your airplane flying so you can start flying around the country. You can be like, you can
do
be
a documentary, Finding Brad's Dad.
You can be like the Punisher, right?
Yeah.
All you'd be is just like confrontation Punisher. You just find people's crappy dads.
Yeah.
Like, I can't find mine yet, but I'll give you a piece. Look at this email I got from your kids.
That's funny. All right, so real super upper of an episode.
No, man, I'm proud of you. This is like a conversation that I think it's step one, clearly, and it'll probably be something we'll converse about, for the foreseeable future. And dude, it's a process. You look at like Robson and Safechuck, and if you think that just by them telling their story, they're like, oh, I can get back to
fine.
I can undo 25 years of emotional torture. Like, that's not going to happen. So it's a step-by-step process.
All right.
And in the business, they say damn good content. if you're going to talk about it.
I mean, that's why we're here.
This is Nearly Informed. If you like this show, find it on the radio.com app and subscribe.
Let's say you just bought a house. Bad news is, you're one step closer to becoming your parents. You'll proudly mow the lawn. Ask if anybody noticed you mowed the lawn. Tell people to stay off the lawn. Compare it to your neighbor's lawn. And complain about having to mow the lawn again. Good news is, it's easy to bundle home and auto through Progressive and save on your car insurance, which, of course, will go right into the lawn. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company, affiliates, and other insurers. Discount not available in all states or situations.